So this contender appeared called gulp, going along with the weirdly named JavaScript build tool trend. But gulp's pretty cool. It does the opposite, code over configuration. So instead of specifying a giant object that you would be using, you write functions and you write code, and you get the full features of your language, which is really nice. Gulp is the streaming build system, so it uses streams, like the Node.js stream API, and has a lot smaller, simpler, more elegant, in my opinion, API. Configuration is really important, but don't let that get in your way. Use your functions to this is kind of the philosophy. Use functions to define your tasks rather than objects, because the function should do one thing well. This means that your build system can be very easily composable, and you can have a nice separation of concerns in your build system, and it's not super entangled and coupled with itself. So when you want to change something, you're not afraid that all the work you've done to make sure your library is built in a pristine way is going to be to waste. So gulp is powered by the concept of streams, which I kind of touched on with the pipe operator and the package JSON. And streams are they're invented in the idea came up with in the 60s by some of those Unix long bearded men, and it's kind of a way to piece these small transform operations together into a pipeline. Things or data will flow in one direction, from top to bottom or bottom to top, however you want to look at it. And this is a really flexible system, especially for build tools, because you can transform files in nice steps, and it's very intuitive. And the nice thing about this is that gulp, because it's built using streams, you get to use all the Node modules people have already written that take advantage of the Streams 2 API in Node. So just a quick little overview of streams. I found this image, which was a good overview. Basically, the pipe operator, which is the vertical bar in Linux, connects the faucet, the readable stream, to the drain, the writable stream. And data is just flowing from one direction to the other, and you're able to programmatically kind of control the rate of the faucet. You're able to control the rate that the drain is able to fill up, and you're also able to ignore the readable stream, or it's a very powerful concept. All powered by the idea that you should just be able to put two pieces of things that emit data together, or one that emits data and one that sucks in data, and just put them together under a common API and be able to just compose them nice and easily. So I'm not going to get into streams too much, but I would really suggest reading Substack's Stream Handbook. Shows you how to do a ton of cool things with streams and Node. So very, very highly recommended. And so back to gulp. So getting gulp, kind of the same dance as grunt. You can install it globally and you have it on your path. Also, you should definitely install it locally for your development environment. And so gulp has a really simple API. We'll go over the whole thing right now. First order of business is gulp task, or gulp.task, and this defines a task, a target, using Orchestrator, which is a library for running tasks at the maximum possible concurrency. And Orchestrator is kind of the underlying task runner that gulp is built out of. Or not built out of, but uses to set up tasks and their dependencies and then run them, as fast as possible. The watch API method will, watch your files. It will emit it's an event emitter, so it'll actually emit an event whenever a file changes, so that other things that are listening to this event can react to that and do things. So you can get things like live reload going. And then that source will emit a readable stream of files, and this will emit an event emitter. This is emitting change events. So whenever these files, yes, it will emit a readable stream of files, and it takes glob patterns, much like the grunt configuration does, and you can pipe. This is kind of the beginnings of the pipe. You call source on your files. And then you can, just send that to whatever, because it's emitting data, much like the faucet earlier And then des, this is the part where you actually write files. And it will re-emit all the data that is passed into it so you can pipe it to folders. And anything that doesn't exist yet will be created. And yeah. So that's literally that's the API of gulp. Those 5 methods. And like I said, it's powered by Orchestrator. It's kind of obnoxious. Like I said, Orchestrator provides an easy way to define tasks, their dependencies, and run tasks with the maximum possible concurrency while respecting the dependencies tree. And it's kind of a cool thing, a cool library and project. I believe Grunt is moving to use Orchestrator in their 1.0 release, if that ever happens. And it's also powered by Vinyl and the Vinyl FS module. Vinyl's a way of describing files. It's a very abstract way of describing files. Basically, it represents a file as a path, or a key, and its contents. So, those are the main attributes of the file. And with this, you can represent files that aren't necessarily on your file system. Maybe they're on FTP. Maybe they're on S3, Dropbox, or whatever the latest cloud thing.io thing out is. And it just provides a clean way to describe the file. And that's what Vinyl does. And then Vinyl FS provides a way to access the file. It's an adapter to Vinyl. So the adapter simply exposes the .source and the .watch and the .dest commands, which I kind of went over earlier, and turns those into streams so that you can use them in your streaming build system. So, there could be a Vinyl adapter. Right now there isn't a Vinyl adapter for S3, but there could be. So Gulp could actually run building stuff on S3 if that was ever emitted. But if you're using Gulp locally, you're using the Gulp FS module to do file manipulation. Gulp also has a pretty good plugin system. I wouldn't say it's as extensive as Grunt's, but that's not necessarily a bad thing because you don't really need to have that because you have all these previous modules that are already working. So some of the ones I found that seemed pretty important to know, Gulp changed. What it's going to do is only pass through changed files into the writable stream. Gulp cached is like an in-memory file cache, and it's for singular files, not for sets of files. Remember, it will work with Gulp cache to cache certain files, and Gulp newer will only pass through the newer source files. So they're all kind of similar, but they're ways of speeding up your build and making it really efficient and not rebuilding things that you don't need to build again. And there's some cool things about Gulp. There's no intermediary files. You don't need, if you want to concatenate some JavaScript and then uglify it, you don't need to make a temporary file and then do something with it. You just stream it all through. It's all in memory and it just goes. Very, very simple API. Like, we learned it in about 30 seconds there. And it's, at least for me, I think it's quite intuitive to be able to just to see the flow control of my build rather than having to look at some options and then look down at some tasks and then look back at options and see how this is all linking together. So when I heard of Gulp, it was pushing Grunt away. Yeah, Gulp's awesome. Get the hell out of here, Grunt. Because yeah, sorry, the GIF analogy is stretching it. All right, if it's GIF time, that means it's demo time. So yeah, let's see some gulpiness. Get everything. All right, so we're dealing with the same program again. Classic program, and I have a pretty basic, the most minimal Gulp file possible. Let me make sure. So I got some dependencies going. Cool. So similar to Grunt, installing plugins, dev dependencies. I think I mentioned that. So let's do a really simple. Grunt. Really simple. Really simple Gulp task. So let's just do JS hint. That's the popular one for me today because it's not a lot of chance of ruining everything. Oh man. Freud. So let's lint our code, so right here we have defined a function called lint, or a task called lint, and that task is going to be represented by a function, which will, pipe some stuff. And we're going to want to return this stream of things. And first things first, we need to get our source files. So we're going to call gulp.source on index.js. which is the file we want to lint. And, let's do star, because globbing's cool. And we're going to pipe that into the JS hint command. So what is happening here? The files are being read as a stream of bytes, and then they're being sent into JS hint. And if I ran this right now, I'm not going to get any output because I haven't specified any output. Gulp lint. So, I mean, it looks like it completed, but I don't really know. The results of my linting. So we maybe want to pipe this out into a some type of reporter that will show us, that will take the data being piped out by JS hint, the JS hint command, and then parsing that into something that can be like displayed and read by a human. So we'll call JS hint. We'll use a default reporter, and what? No, that should be right. It's fine. Doesn't seem. Maybe there's just nothing wrong. Yeah.
Put an error in there.
Let's do it. Yeah. So my code was too good. Sorry. Yeah. And actually, semicolons aren't really necessary. Like they're not needed, so it's still good. But yeah, so we just linted our code, and we're at the same place we were in the previous two examples. Well, right before that. But let's do a little more involved example. So we're gonna want to lint our code and then uglify it. So we have our. Let's change this to just index, and let's call this scripts. I guess this is how I kind of do gulp stuff, is like I try and do a task based on a certain group of files. So all of my JavaScripts, my scripts, I'm going to want to lint them, and I'm going to want to uglify them and put them in somewhere. So obviously we have them linted, we have them, if there are any errors, it's going to be reported. If there aren't, I'm just going to silently kind of go on, which is, maybe that's fine. Oh, and we're also going to need another gulp plugin called rename, which is one I would recommend if you're doing any type of file manipulation, because you actually need to specify how the file's name is going to end up, and we're going to just give it a suffix of .min. And so this is going to take the file that was linted and then put a suffix on the vinyl file descriptor thingy. And then uglify that bad boy, and then put it somewhere, and let's put it in our dist folder, which does not exist yet. And proof there's no dist folder there. Where's my cursor? All right. And this should lint and uglify our code, and actually I still might have that error, so it might not. Oh wait, script. Comma, line 3? Good call. Yes. So, okay, let's fix that. So, yeah, let's do...
Any step that fails in the pipe, it stops the whole stream.
Yes. Yes. So, yeah, because, obviously the JS hint failed there and it'll stop the whole stream. So you put in your whole, like, this is definitely what's needed for this to happen. This is definitely what's needed, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. It's not going to work. But, I mean, to me, that's, like, a lot simpler than the equivalent grunt file, where I have my tasks down here and then my options up here, and I have to, like, okay, the options, oh, that's not a task, it's options. Oh, the task is test. And, like, this to me is just very idiomatic, very straightforward, and very easy to parse. But another cool feature is you can, like, watch files. It's just built in. Task, watch, function. And so we can call the gulp watch command on all our JavaScript files with the with the aim of running the scripts task on it. And actually, we don't want to concatenate or do it to our. Well, let's see what happens. So this should be able to run. This will be running not in the background, but it'll be running all the time. If anything changes in any of these JavaScript files in the current working directory, then the scripts task will be run, and that involves all these other tasks. So gulp watch, and so started, finished. It's not really finished. It's just kind of like chilling. But I bet you if let's like, I don't know. Should rebuild everything. So look, it ran the scripts task now because it was watching that file. So that's really useful. I know one thing I really like to develop or one environment I like to develop in is library load environment. So if you set up your browser to automatically refresh the page whenever you change your source files, you're able to get immediate feedback on things, which is just, I think it's really nice. I think it's kind of the difference between like doing Java and having to wait for the whole compile loop to happen versus doing something like Ruby or Python or Node where you can just hit up a REPL and like see what's going on, or even something like Lisp or Clojure where you can actually like get into certain areas of or certain points in the application state really easily. So watchers and stuff, really nice thing to do. Cool. So that's all the demos I have. Thanks for suffering through that. So yeah, GTFO grunt. In my opinion, sorry. So some not so cool things about gulp. Not a lot of error management stuff going on. Like you said, if the pipe fails, it's over, and you can't really control it. You can't do anything with it. I saw an issue that the creator had commented on, saying that he was looking to fix that in the next release. It's one of his big priorities. There's not a lot of stuff included. There's just the 5 or so API methods, which might be a good thing or a bad thing depending on your style. And the plugin ecosystem is maybe smaller than Grunt's. There's not a ton of gulps. There are a ton of gulp specific files, but it's not as old as Grunt, so there's probably less files. That's why I put the maybe in there. But also you can use like already existing modules that already use streams. Those are some not so cool things about gulp. But I think these build tools are kind of the JavaScript's becoming really popular in the past few years, and becoming more complex. The applications being built with it, so these build tools are definitely going to be used more often in the JS land. I think the future is looking bright in that sense. Like I said, Gulp or Grunt 1.0, when that finally comes out, we'll be using Orchestrator, so they'll have a common system for running tasks, and it's going to be highly optimized for that problem set. Gulp 4 will be coming out.
And Grunt has live reload too.
Yeah. No, I didn't. Well, it doesn't have a built-in watch command, which I guess is
not built in, but
yeah. So yeah, you can easily get a watch plugin and do stuff, and it has live reload with. You could set up a Connect server to live reload, or Express server that will live reload, or what have you, or just a standard HTTP server. And same with Gulp as well. I mean, you still kind of have the power of the programming environment that you are working in. The creator of Gulp, he said that your imagination is the limit, the technical barriers will be lifted, the API will be fluent, it looks crazy good, the code base will be simpler. So that is his kind of state of the next version of Gulp. I think he's looking forward to that. And it's kind of crazy that Gulp became so popular, because it seemed like everyone was going towards using something like Grunt, and Gulp, just this little simple thing, came out, and everyone was really excited about it, and a lot of modules were developed for it right away, really quickly, really fast. So in the end, I guess all it comes down to using your build tools is configuration versus code. Like, what do you want to do? What's the best situation for you? Horses for courses, right? To me, Grunt.js is kind of like Angular. It's a limited configuration language, so you can configure stuff, but you don't necessarily have the full power of JavaScript at your will. You're limited inside this little configuration language, and you got key value pairs. You don't have like anything else besides that. But with Gulp, it's kind of like React.js, where you have the full power of the JavaScript language at your fingertips. You can run whatever the hell you want. You're not constrained by, I guess, like the object mapping notation of JavaScript. But again, it's your choice. Your choice. Just remember that technical debt is the enemy. Don't let that creep up on you. It will, kill your project. And thanks.
Question?
Yeah.
What live reload plugins do you use for your browser?
Well, the one I actually like is called Beefy, which that's one I used recently. Because I was using the Browserify toolchain, and Beefy it's just a server that just does that for you. So it'll automatically run. Browserify is a way of building some JavaScript in CommonJS for the browser, and Beefy will do that for you and then refresh the browser, and it's like very minimal effort. So I have gotten, I think is it Grunt Contrib live reload? I think there's a Contribute plugin, and usually the Grunt Contrib plugins are legit. They're like, the developers have starred them and said they're like, this is a good plugin. So there's that. I know someone was talking to me about using a Connect live reload plugin middleware, because there's a Grunt Connect plugin, and there's also an option to provide middleware, or you could just do functions that do the request response next format, and you can just insert some script tags into your source when it's rendered. So Grunt Contrib live reload, or Connect server, or for gulp Connect server, because you can just call that Connect server like you normally would. So, or Beefy. I would suggest Beefy if you're doing stuff like that. So, awesome. Well, thanks. Thanks for coming.
On behalf of Wyden, I want to thank you for coming. There is some pizza, there's some soda, coffee, and cookies in the other room. If you're of age and want to stick around for some networking, there's a separate room in the back here. Thanks for coming.
Thank you. Good presentation.
Thanks.